I stood in the parking lot of Riverside Medical Center, staring at my phone screen like it might change if I blinked hard enough. The email was dated March 14th, early morning timestamp. Our 29-year marriage, and I found out like this, from a hospital billing department. The numbers didn't make sense at first. $17,000 in charges for family member visit coordination services. I'd been in the ICU for 4 days after my accident on the crane at the manufacturing plant. A hydraulic line failed, fell 30 feet onto a metal platform. Lucky to be alive, everyone said. But the bill sitting in my inbox suggested I was unlucky in every other way. My hands were still shaking when I got home to our little ranch house on Maple Street in Millbrook, Ohio. Population 12,000, where everyone knows your business and pretends they don't. The thing about being a crane operator for nearly 30 years is that you learn to trust your instincts. You have to. One wrong read of the load, one miscalculation, and people die. I'd built my reputation on precision and calm under pressure. My hands knew what to do before my brain caught up. That same intuition had kept me alive when the line snapped 3 weeks earlier, had kept me breathing through the pain on the way down. But those same instincts had gone completely blind when it came to my own house. Our marriage had been solid. Not perfect, whose is, but reliable. Mark and I had purchased this place in 1995, right after our daughter Emma was born. He worked in the county assessor's office. I'd been operating cranes and heavy machinery since my 20s. We'd paid off the mortgage in 2008. We'd sent both kids to decent state schools. Our son David was running some kind of power plant operation upstate, doing well for himself. Emma was a plant manager at an automotive factory in Indiana. Both kids had made something of themselves. We'd done right. Mark had taken early retirement last year at 62. I was still working. I'd planned to go another 5 or 6 years, build up my retirement cushion. Crane work paid decent money if you were good, and I was very good. The company had been pushing me to train new operators, which came with a small bump in pay. We had routines. Breakfast together on my days off, usually Saturday mornings. Mark handled the yard. I did the heavy repairs. He cooked dinner most nights. We'd watch the news, work the crossword puzzle together, take our parakeet, Trixie, out of her cage for exercise. She was a sweet little thing, blue and yellow, about 6 years old. She'd sit on my shoulder while I read the paper on Sunday mornings. Everything felt normal, comfortable, safe. But March had changed something, or maybe I'd just finally noticed what was always there. The accident happened on a Friday. I'd been repositioning a load of steel beams for the new commercial construction on Route 9. The weather was turning warm, unusual for Ohio in early March. I remember the sun felt good on my face right before the line snapped. I remember the sound, this terrible screaming metal sound. I remember thinking very clearly that I was about to die. I didn't die. I broke 2 ribs, my left arm in 3 places, and my pelvis in 2. I spent 4 days in ICU sedated, another 3 weeks in the hospital, and came home with a walker and enough pain medication to knock out an elephant. Mark had been at the hospital constantly. He'd slept in the chair next to my bed. He'd held my hand when I woke up screaming from the pain. He'd cried, actually cried, when the doctor said I'd walk again, that I wouldn't need permanent disability. He'd also, apparently, been billing our insurance for family member visit coordination services at a rate of $250 per visit. I found the second email while I was sitting in our living room on my second day home, waiting for the pain pills to kick in. This one was from our insurance company, flagged as payment processed. The amount was just over $43,000. It included charges going back 6 months. 6 months of coordination services. 6 months before my accident. My first thought was fraud. My second thought was that Mark wouldn't do that. My third thought, the one that made my stomach drop, was that maybe I didn't know Mark at all. I should have confronted him that day, should have asked him straight out what the hell those charges were for. But I didn't. I was on pain medication. I was terrified of my own body. I'd been a woman who could handle a 50-ton load suspended over a city block, and now I couldn't get from the couch to the bathroom without help. So I sat there with my phone in my lap, reading the same email over and over, while Mark came home from his Tuesday errand run with groceries, whistling to himself like everything in the world was fine. He bent down to kiss my forehead, careful not to jostle my arm. "How are you feeling, babe? Need anything?" I looked at him, really looked at him, and something in his expression didn't match his words. There was something practiced about it, like he was playing a part he'd perfected over months. "I'm okay," I said, and I watched his shoulders relax. "Good. I'm going to make you some soup. The doctor said you need to eat more." He went into the kitchen, and I sat in the silence of our living room with the sound of him opening cabinets and running water, and I realized that I had no idea who I'd been sleeping next to for 29 years, and I had no idea what he'd been doing, or why, or what he was about to tell me, because he was going to tell me something. That much I knew for certain. I didn't confront him that night, or the next morning, or even when I woke up at 3 in the morning, pain shooting through my pelvis, and found him asleep in the guest bedroom instead of beside me like he'd been every night since my accident. The rational part of my brain, the part that had spent 30 years calculating load weights and wind resistance, kept telling me there had to be an explanation. A clerical error, a billing code mix-up. Insurance companies made mistakes all the time, didn't they? But the other part of me, the part that trusted my gut the way I trusted it to keep loads balanced, knew that something was deeply, fundamentally wrong. By Wednesday, I'd made copies of every email on a flash drive. I sat in our living room with my left arm in a sling and my leg elevated on a pillow, methodically going through every statement the insurance company had sent us in the past year. The charges started appearing in September, 6 months before the accident. $250 per visit. Sometimes 3 visits a week, sometimes 5. Coordination services. What the hell did that even mean? I should have asked Mark directly. I should have been an adult about it. But I was scared. Scared of what he might say. Scared of what his answer might mean for everything I thought I knew about my life. So instead, I sat in that living room with Trixie on my shoulder. She'd been staying out of her cage most days since I came home, sensing something was wrong, and I called my daughter. Emma picked up on the second ring. She was at work. I could hear the ambient noise of the factory floor in the background, machinery humming beneath her voice. "Mom? Are you okay? Is it the pain?" "No, I'm fine. I mean, I'm not fine, but it's not the pain medication. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me." There was a pause. I heard her excuse herself from whoever she was with, heard a door close. "What's going on?" "Has your father said anything to you recently? Anything about money or insurance or, I don't know, anything unusual?" Another pause, longer this time. "Mom, I don't think this is a conversation to have over the phone. Have you talked to Dad?" "Not yet. I'm asking you first." "Well, don't. Talk to Dad, please. I can't." She stopped. "I can't get in the middle of this. But Mom, I think you need to have a real conversation with him, a serious one." That was when I knew it was bad. I hung up with Emma and sat there with my phone in my lap, my heart doing this strange, accelerating thing that the hospital monitors had warned me about. Trixie shifted on my shoulder, and her little claws dug in slightly, not aggressive, just anxious. She felt it too. Animals always do. Mark came home at 5:30, like he always did. He had groceries in both hands, fresh vegetables, chicken breast, the ingredients for his famous marinara. He smiled at me the same way he'd been smiling for the past 3 weeks, that practiced smile. "How was your day?" he asked, setting the bags down on the counter. "Fine," I said. "We need to talk." I watched the color drain from his face. Actually drain. I could see it happening, like someone had pulled a plug somewhere in his neck. "Absolutely." His voice had changed. It was higher, defensive. About the insurance charges, the coordination services, the $43,000. He stood very still. I heard the refrigerator hum. I heard the distant sound of a lawnmower from somewhere down the street. I heard Trixie chirp nervously. "I can explain," Mark said finally. "Then explain." He sat down across from me. He didn't look at me directly. He was looking at his hands instead, turning them over like they belonged to someone else. "There's someone," he said. "Someone I've been seeing. Her name is Patricia. She lives in Columbus." The words landed, but they didn't make sense. I kept waiting for the sentence to continue, for him to say something that would transform those words into something survivable. He didn't. "For how long?" My voice sounded strange to my own ears, flat, like I was asking about the weather. 2 years. 2 years. I did the math in my head. That would be 2022. That was when he retired. That was when he said he wanted to travel, and I'd encouraged him to take those weekend trips upstate to visit David. That was when I was working more hours, picking up extra shifts to pad my retirement fund. That was when I thought everything was fine. "The coordination services," I said. "That was for her. You were claiming insurance fraud." "It was legitimate," he said, and now there was an edge to his voice. "She has a daughter. She has medical issues. I was handling the paperwork for her family. The insurance company approved the charges. It was all above board." "It wasn't legitimate, Mark. It was fraud. $43,000 of fraud, and I'm the one whose name is on the insurance policy. I'm the one who could be liable." He finally looked at me. His expression was something I'd never seen before on his face. It looked like resentment, like I was the one who had done something wrong. "You're always working," he said. "You were gone all the time. I was alone in this house." "So you committed fraud?" "So I found someone who made me feel like I wasn't invisible." The words hung there between us like something toxic. Trixie flew off my shoulder suddenly, spooked, and crashed into the bookshelf with a sound like breaking glass. She didn't crash, though. She just landed awkwardly, ruffled her feathers, and flew back to the top of the refrigerator. "Her daughter," I said carefully. "Is she—" I didn't finish the sentence. I didn't need to. The way Mark's jaw tightened told me everything. "We're not having this conversation," he said. "Yes, we are. We're having this conversation right now. Is Patricia's daughter yours?" "No." He said it too quickly. He said it the way someone says something they've practiced saying. "Mark, I don't know, okay? I don't know. She's 7 years old, and I don't know if she's mine. Patricia says she is. Patricia says she's my daughter, and she's been waiting for me to acknowledge her. And I was going to tell you everything. But then you had your accident, and everything got complicated, and you thought you'd just keep committing insurance fraud in the meantime? The fraud wasn't about her. That was legitimate medical billing. You can ask the insurance company. You can ask anyone. I'm asking you." He stood up. He grabbed the bags of groceries and started putting things away, moving with aggressive precision, slamming cabinets. "I'm going upstairs," he said. "I'm going to pack a bag. I'm going to stay at a hotel for a few days while you process this. When I come back, we can talk about what comes next." "What comes next?" I repeated. "Divorce," he said, and he said it like he was the one who'd been wronged, like I'd made him do this. He left that night. I watched him carry his suitcase to the car, watched him drive away down Maple Street, and I sat in our living room with my broken body and my broken marriage and my broken understanding of who I'd been married to. Trixie came down from the refrigerator and landed on the arm of my chair. She made a small, questioning sound. I reached over with my uninjured hand and stroked her soft feathers, and I realized that I had no idea what I was going to do next. That was when my phone buzzed. A text from Emma. "Did you talk to him?" I typed back. "He's leaving me." The response came almost immediately. "Call me. I need to tell you something." It took me 15 minutes to get from the couch to the phone in the kitchen, 15 minutes of pain and fumbling with the walker. By the time I called her back, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. "Hi," Emma said. She sounded like she'd been crying. "What do you need to tell me?" "Mom, Dad's had another family for longer than 2 years. Patricia isn't the first woman. There was someone else. In 2018. I found out about her when I was visiting David, and Dad asked me not to tell you. He said it was just a fling, that it was over, that telling you would only hurt you, and there was no point." I couldn't breathe. I was trying to breathe, and I couldn't figure out how. "How long has he been doing this?" I don't know. I only know about the two. But Mom, there's something else. The way he's been acting lately, the way he's been talking about his life, about feeling trapped. I think he's been planning to leave you for a while. I think Patricia might be. I think she might be the reason he retired early. How long have you known? I asked. How long have you known about all of this and not told me? Mom. How long, Emma? 5 years, since 2018. But I didn't know about Patricia until recently. David told me. He said Dad asked him for money to help with legal stuff, and David refused and told me what was going on. I hung up the phone. I didn't mean to hang up. My hand just opened and the phone fell. I heard Emma calling my name as the line went dead. Trixie was chirping, a high, distressed sound. I looked at her and I thought about how she was 7 years old, and that meant I'd bought her when Mark and I were already celebrating nearly 20 years together. She was a happy bird. She'd never known anything but this cage, and these people, and this house, and this life. I wondered if Mark's other daughter, the 7-year-old in Columbus, knew that she was part of a lie, that she was part of the reason I was sitting here, unable to move, unable to escape, unable to do anything but wait for the pain medication to wear off so I could feel something other than numbness. I made a decision then, not a dramatic one, not a decision that involved throwing things or calling a lawyer immediately. Just a quiet, cold decision that felt like ice crystallizing in my chest. Mark wasn't going to get to do this to me, not anymore. I picked up my phone with shaking fingers and I texted David, "Call me. I need your help with something." David called me back within 10 minutes. He'd always been like that, solid, dependable, the kind of son who picked up when his mother called, even at work. I heard the concern in his voice before he even said hello. "Mom, what's going on? Are you okay? Is it the pain?" "Your father left tonight," I said. "He's been having an affair for 2 years, maybe longer. There's a woman named Patricia in Columbus. She has a daughter. He thinks the daughter might be his." There was a long silence on the other end, the kind of silence that confirmed everything I needed to know. "You knew," I said. It wasn't a question. "Yes, I found out 6 months ago. I told Emma, and we both agreed that you needed to hear it from him, not from us. I'm sorry, Mom. I wanted to tell you so many times." "Did he ask you for money?" "Yes, about 4 months ago. He wanted to help Patricia with legal fees. He said she was fighting for custody of her daughter. He said he'd made a mistake, and he wanted to do the right thing. I told him no. I told him he needed to talk to you first." My hands were shaking again. "He's committed insurance fraud, David. $43,000. I'm the one whose name is on the policy. I could be charged." "Jesus Christ," David said. "Mom, listen to me. You need to call a lawyer, right now, tonight. Don't wait. Call someone and get ahead of this." "Do you know who Patricia is? Where exactly she lives?" "Columbus. I don't have an address, but I can try to find it." "Mom, what are you going to do?" "I don't know yet," I said, but that wasn't entirely true. I did know. I'd known since he drove away from the house. I just hadn't admitted it to myself yet. I hung up with David and made my first phone call to Richard Chen, a divorce attorney whose office was 3 blocks from the courthouse in Millbrook. I'd looked him up on my phone while Mark was at the grocery store. I'd been preparing, whether I admitted it or not. Richard's answering service picked up. I left a message with my name and number and a note that it was urgent. Then I called the insurance company's fraud line and reported the charges myself. I explained that my husband had submitted false billing codes, that I had not authorized the visits, that the whole thing appeared to be fabricated. The woman on the phone, her name was Sandra, she told me she was sorry, said they would open an investigation immediately. "Will my husband be charged?" I asked. "That depends on the investigation," Sandra said carefully. "The company will determine if there's evidence of intentional fraud or if this was a billing error. If fraud is confirmed, we notify the authorities." After I hung up, I sat in the darkness of our living room with Trixie on my shoulder, and I felt something crystallize inside me. Not anger. Not yet. It was something colder than anger. It was clarity. Mark thought he could do this. He thought he could build a second life on a foundation of lies and stolen time and fraudulent billing codes, and that I would somehow understand. That I would be grateful for the years of stability while he was planning his escape. That I would sit quietly and let him rewrite our entire marriage as something that had been unfulfilling from the start. He was wrong. Richard called me back at 8:45 in the morning. He had a deep voice and the kind of calm competence that made me feel slightly less like I was drowning. "My receptionist said you need to discuss a divorce," he said. "Tell me what's happened." I told him everything. The affair, the insurance fraud, the money, the daughter, the fact that Mark had left the house and I had no idea where he was staying. Richard listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. "First thing," he said, "that insurance fraud is going to complicate things, but it also works in your favor. The fact that you reported it yourself shows good faith. That matters to a judge. Second, I need you to do something today, while you're still injured and still in the house. Document everything. Take photos of the insurance statements, the emails, any communication between you and your husband. Get those on a flash drive or backed up to the cloud. Can you do that?" "Yes," I said. "Good. I'm going to prepare a petition for divorce. I'll also prepare a motion for temporary spousal support. You're injured, you can't work, and he just abandoned you. We'll ask for 60% of all assets and retirement accounts, and we'll ask for him to cover your medical bills related to the accident. The insurance fraud is leverage. Don't mention it to him directly, but let him know you've reported it to the insurance company." "What if he tries to claim the fraud was my idea?" I asked. "What if he says I told him to do it?" "Then we have a credibility problem, and credibility is everything in court. But you've already reported it to the insurance company under your own name, which gives you a paper trail of good faith. That's protection. When's the last time you were in contact with him?" "Last night. He left around 6. "Okay, send him a text message right now. Make it short. Make it clear. Tell him you've reported the insurance fraud and that you've retained legal counsel. Keep the tone calm and factual. Don't threaten him. Just inform him of the facts." I did exactly that. I typed out a message on my phone with my right hand while Trixie balanced on my left shoulder. "Mark, I've reported the fraudulent insurance charges to the company and to the authorities. I've retained an attorney. Do not contact me except through my lawyer. Any further communication regarding our marriage will go through legal counsel." I hit send before I could second-guess myself. His response came 12 minutes later. "This is insane. You're overreacting. We can work through this like adults." I showed the message to Richard over the phone. He laughed, actually laughed, a short, sharp sound that held no humor. "He's panicking," Richard said. "That's good. That means he knows he's in trouble. Don't respond. From this moment on, every communication goes through me. You don't talk to him. You don't answer if he calls. If he shows up at the house, you call the police. Understood?" "Understood. I'll have papers ready for you to sign by Friday. I'm going to file for a temporary restraining order, just precautionary, to prevent him from accessing bank accounts or transferring assets. And I want to know everything about your finances: bank accounts, retirement accounts, property value, vehicles, any debts. I need numbers." It took me until Wednesday to gather everything. The house was paid off. We'd finished the mortgage in 2008. We had 2 vehicles, both paid off. I had a 401k from my crane operator position that had accumulated about $230,000 over the years. Mark had a modest pension from his county job, about $1,800 a month. We had $32,000 in a joint savings account and another $8,000 in checking. Richard looked at the numbers and nodded. "Not bad. The house alone is worth what, $450,000? $500? "About $470, I said. "Okay, with the house, the 401k, the savings, and half his pension, we're looking at a total marital estate of approximately $650,000. You're asking for 60% due to his infidelity and abandonment. That would be $390,000, plus temporary spousal support of $2,000 a month until the divorce is final. Plus, he covers all your medical expenses from the accident. Does that sound reasonable? It sounded like the most beautiful thing I'd ever heard. The papers were filed on Friday. I signed them at Richard's office while sitting in a comfortable leather chair in his conference room, my left arm still in a sling, Trixie in her travel cage beside me. Richard had offered to watch her, but I couldn't leave her. She was the last innocent thing in my life. By Monday, Mark had been served. By Wednesday, his attorney, a woman named Catherine Reeves, had filed a counterpetition. She claimed that the marriage had been loveless for years, that Mark had tried to fix things by seeking companionship elsewhere, that the insurance fraud had been a misunderstanding and a billing error, and that Mark was entitled to at least 50% of all assets and should not be responsible for medical bills he didn't incur. The temporary restraining order went through. Mark couldn't touch the bank accounts, he couldn't sell the house, he couldn't transfer his pension without court approval. He was living at an extended stay America off Highway 71, paying $200 a night out of pocket, and his attorney was charging him $350 an hour. He called the house on Thursday. I didn't answer. The message he left was frantic. "Rachel, please, we need to talk. This is ridiculous. Patricia isn't even... Just call me back. We can work this out without destroying everything." I played the message for Richard. He saved it. 3 weeks after Mark left, I was cleared to start physical therapy. I could walk without the walker now, though the pain was still there, a constant ache in my pelvis, and a sharper pain in my ribs when I breathed too deeply. I went to therapy 3 times a week at Riverside Medical Center, the same hospital where I'd spent those 4 days after the accident. It was at therapy that I saw her. I was in the waiting room, filling out the same intake forms I'd filled out the week before, when a woman came in with a little girl. The woman was maybe 45, with dark blonde hair and the kind of careful makeup that suggested she was trying very hard to look put together. The little girl was maybe 7, with Mark's eyes. I would have recognized those eyes anywhere. That specific shade of hazel, that slight downturn at the corners. I stared at them. I couldn't help it. The woman noticed and looked away quickly. She signed her daughter in, and they sat on the opposite side of the waiting room, as far from me as possible. The daughter, Mark's daughter, I was almost certain, was clutching a stuffed animal and looking at me with the same confused expression that small children get when they sense something is wrong with the adults around them. I excused myself to the bathroom and called Richard from the hallway. "I just saw her," I said. "Patricia and the daughter. They're here at physical therapy." "Are you sure?" "The girl has Mark's eyes, exactly his eyes, and the woman, I think it's her." "Don't approach them," Richard said immediately. "Don't say anything, just let me handle this. Actually, this is perfect. Where are you?" "Riverside Medical Center, Orthopedic Therapy Wing." "Okay, stay there. Finish your therapy. Act normal. I'm going to make some calls." I went back to the waiting room and pretended to read a magazine. I didn't look at them again, but I was hyper-aware of their presence, the way you're aware of a predator nearby even when you're not looking at it. The little girl swung her legs and hummed. The woman checked her phone constantly, her jaw tight. When my name was called for therapy, I got up and followed the physical therapist into the back, but my mind was still in that waiting room. I was thinking about all the times Mark had said he was going to visit David, all the weekends he'd disappeared, all the times he'd come home and smelled like someone else's perfume, and I'd been too tired or too focused on my own work to notice. I was thinking about that little girl who didn't know that her father was about to lose everything. 2 weeks later, Richard called me with an update. "I've been doing some digging," he said. "Patricia Summers, age 46, lives at 842 Riverside Drive in Columbus. She's a nursing assistant. The daughter's name is Sophia, 7 years old. Birth certificate lists the father as unknown. Your husband has been living in Columbus at least 2 days a week for the past 2 years, staying at a Holiday Inn near her apartment." "How did you find all that?" "A private investigator. It cost you $1,500, but it was worth it. Because here's the thing. I had him pull Patricia's financial records. She's been receiving disability payments from the state of Ohio for the past 3 years, $800 a month. She's claiming she can't work due to a back injury." "Okay," I said, not sure where this was going. "But she works as a nursing assistant, which means she's either defrauding the disability program or she's being paid under the table. Either way, it's fraud. And guess who's been helping her file the paperwork? Your husband, the same guy who's claiming he committed insurance fraud accidentally with you. I felt something shift inside me. Not anger, I was past anger. It was something like the cold satisfaction of a problem being solved. What does that mean? I asked. It means your husband is a serial fraudster.